An extremely loud noise scared a lot of people in northeast Albuquerque last night. We got a lot of calls from you, but nobody knew what it was. Action 7 News reporter Aaron Hill has the recording and an answer to the mystery.
That's the sound Chase and Heather York woke up to Wednesday night.
It sounded like a rocket was being launched from our front yard.
It was like a sonic blast. I mean, it scared me.
It was very scary.
4-year-old Maddie York says the noise woke her up too.
It sounds like this.
No one in this northeast neighborhood knew exactly what it was, but as it turns out, that loud noise actually came from PNM's Reeves generating station just a couple of miles from the York's neighborhood. A PNM spokesperson says the boiler system at the plant has a relief valve, so when the pressure inside gets too high, the valve opens up, safely releasing steam.
Last night, that pressure needed to be released, causing a very, very loud noise for our neighbors.
PNM says it's been years since pressure has been released and they don't expect it to happen again anytime soon. As for the Yorks, they say they're glad to know what it was.
Now it's funny. It's not a spaceship, that came over our house.
And hope they can sleep in peace from now on. Aaron Hill, KO18, Action 7 News.
All lanes are clear now after
Just got up out of the bed hearing this weird ass noise outside. I thought it was the wind, and it's like there is no wind out here right now. From up in the sky, for sure. Sounds like some sort of machine in the sky or something. It definitely has a mechanical sound to it. But it's nothing. But it's something. Gotta be some like experiment.
was a cold January night. It was 6:45, and I hear this jet or jet-like sound approaching. The sound was different from any other jet that I've heard. It was a very, very loud, deep, bass-like sound, almost reverberating. I'm looking up, and all of a sudden, this thing comes over my rooftop. It's flashing white light, and then as I watched in amazement, it did a maneuver that no regular jet could do. It slowed down, and it made a U-turn further down in the sky over the rooftops and came back the same way. And as it came back over my house, the white lights changed all to red lights, flashed to red, and then back to white as it moved away. My knees were knocking because I knew this was not a normal jet. I knew it was extraterrestrial, or at least of some type of construction that was top secret. I would say it was delta-shaped, triangular-shaped. It looked like it had two wings, but I saw no afterburner, and the sound was quite different. Then there was another one. After that one passed away, there was another one further away on the other side towards the ocean more. So there were two of them at least. This was Thursday night, and then I watched them both head out towards the east, towards the ocean, still flying very low over the rooftops and making this incredible bass-like roar. They were dipping down and dipping up and doing these weird maneuvers, and then they disappeared. So I called the police, I reported it. Dispatcher said, well, you're the second person. He said, I just got another call on it. I said, yeah. I said, well, these things, if they're U.S., they shouldn't be flying like that over our rooftops. He said, I'll make a note of it here, and that was it for that night. But I had a distinct feeling they were going to come back the next night. I don't know how I had that feeling, but I did. Sure enough, they came back the following night at exactly the same time, 6:45. And I heard the same sound. I said, oh, my God, they're coming back. This time, it was even more odd because what came over my house was some type of a jet-like, seemed like it was different than the first one that came the night before. But it came right over my house, and I'm on the phone talking to the police dispatcher trying to describe what I'm seeing. And I held the phone up so he could hear the roar of this thing. What I saw underneath the fuselage as it came right over my rooftop were two large, red, unblinking, kind of blood red lights. That's all that was on this craft. There were no other lights on this one. That one came right over my rooftop, really very, very close. As it headed away, this is the amazing part, it was accompanied by a white ball of light, maybe like basketball size, but they were flying parallel to each other as they headed to the east. The jet-like thing veered off to the south. The ball of light continued east towards the ocean, towards Narragansett Bay. I tried to inquire as to what these craft were and what they were doing flying at rooftop levels, which is illegal even if they were our own craft. When I was talking to the police outside that whole time, I was talking to him right as it went over my house. I was telling him what I was seeing. He says, what do you think they are? I said, they look like UFOs. When I said UFOs, he said, I'm calling the state police. Then he hung up.
What police department?
South Kingstown Police Department in Wakefield. Wakefield is a village in the town of South Kingstown.
What about that white glowing ball?
I thought, if anything's a UFO, that was a UFO. As I looked, I see the white ball following it at the same rooftop level. So they were in communication with each other. I associated them both as related to each other somehow. And I would say ally rather than enemy because nothing bad happened to either one of them. It's almost like there was a communication between them, and then they veered off.
So the camouflage jet goes off, but the white glowing ball that was next to it continues out to the ocean.
Yes.
One of the questions in the UFO phenomena has been how much of the extraterrestrial intelligence or intelligences are using the oceans as their territory on this planet where most humans cannot go.
Well, that's interesting because the first UFO I ever saw came up out of the ocean when I was camping in Rhode Island here by the shore when I was 15. We see this bright star-like object come up out of the ocean, zigzag at 45-degree angles, almost in a jerky kind of motion. It picked up speed and then just shot into space. And that came up out of the ocean.
What year?
That was 1965. After that, I believed.
In your email to me, you said that the craft on the second sighting, the second night, had the outline of an F-14. Can you explain that?
It had more of an outline of a jet. I used the F-14 as an example. It was a modern-shaped jet, but with no other lights on it. There were no normal navigational lights, just two large, red, unblinking lights that were right above my head as it went over.
On that second night, where you had the impression that there was a triangle masquerading as an F-14, but
Yes.
you said the sound was not right. Why, to your human ear, it was not an F-14?
No, it wasn't an F-14. It was some type of manufactured craft to imitate one of ours. There was no afterburner. I saw it come right over with the two red lights. There were no other lights on it, and the sound was a deep bass roar. You could hear it when it was way out of sight. You could still hear that sound reverberate through the air.
Was it rattling the windows or any part of where you were?
No, but I felt it through my body as I was outside. It went right over my head. It was so loud, I held it up to the police dispatcher as it went over. After it passed, he could still hear it going away. And I said, it looks like a UFO. He says, UFO, I'm calling the state police. He was scared, and then he hung up.
You knew from your life and your work as an administrator for the Department of Defense and other work that you had done that you were looking at the bottom of something that was triangular shaped. It made you think of an F-14, but that it could not have been a terrestrial F-14.
No, I think it was something that was manufactured to imitate one of our jets. And then the following Monday morning, I was outside at 11 o'clock with the cable installer, and that same bass sound, exactly the same as the first two nights, I could hear it approaching. I said, oh my God, they're coming back. And this time, it was just at rooftop level, or a little bit above. It was a full-length F-15, is what it appeared to me. And it had no markings on it. The nose of the F-15 was a slightly different color than the rest, and it kind of suggested that it was a model that was put together. That was my impression. But just as it came right over my house, it flipped on its side in a 45-degree angle, so I could not see into the cockpit and could only see the underside of the craft. And again, no markings. There was no afterburner at all. And with that much speed and sound, there should have been something coming out of the afterburner, but there was nothing. The sound, to me, felt like it was broadcast rather than manufactured by the engine. It seemed like there was broadcast from speakers is what the sound felt like to me, that it was artificial. In fact, the whole craft seemed like it was artificial. As it passed and went away, I immediately called the police again. And this time I hit a brick wall. They were no longer allowed to speak about it.
If we have extraterrestrial intelligences that are camouflaging whatever their technology is to look like our aircraft, what are the implications for you?
Well, the implications are they could be everywhere and unnoticed, and they could be hiding in plain sight, making close observations of us, taking data from us. They could be working with our own military. They have the technology to do that, I believe, to imitate anything that looks like ours. I think where they followed up was they didn't get the sound right. The lights were not normal navigational lights. And the maneuvers of these craft flying at housetop level, that's something our own military does not do.
Mm-hmm. The sound, was it heard by any of your neighbors?
Yes, my neighbor next door heard it. I just said, oh, well, I guess it was a jet. I said, no, it wasn't a jet. I did have another friend who lives further down in the next little village, about 6 miles from me, and I talked to him, and he saw them also, and he said they were not our jets. I called the National Guard the next day, because what happened, well, I'll back up a little bit. After that second night, and I made the report, there was feature on the news. So many people had called in about these craft that the news had to broadcast something. It was on Channel 10 News, and the announcer, Dan Janning, said, well, what were those strange jets that were going over South County, Rhode Island? Just jets from Otis Air Force Base. And he said, well, I guess that takes care of it. And what was odd is when he said they were stationed at Otis Air Force Base, there haven't been F-15s, any jets at Otis for the last 6 years. So I knew what he said was a lie. They were not from Otis Air Force Base. Their jets have been gone for 6 years. They moved them up to Westfield, Massachusetts. So I knew it was a government cover-up.
Why do you think that the government doesn't simply tell us the truth, that we're not alone in this universe, and that entities with very advanced technologies interact with this planet?
Well, I think there are two reasons. One is I think they're afraid of the public mass hysteria. I think there's another reason. Our own government could be working with these extraterrestrials on secret projects that are even scarier than just their presence.